As we gather here today, I really invite us to reflect on the spirit of Ubuntu, as you will hear that repeated through this conversation, the belief that I am because we are. It is shared humanity, and it's a collective strength that we bring leaders from African tertiary institutions, businesses, innovation hubs, civil society is here, community partners together with our counterparts with HBCUs in the United States, across the global African diaspora. We're here intentionally, and we're lifting scales off our eyes, we're tearing down walls, and we're leading in this conversation because it begins with recognition of our legacy, our history, and the impact that we want to see with HBCUs. They're also continuing to shape this broader vision of Pan-Africanism. We want to explore these lessons that is embedded in this history that ties us all together, and how the connections can guide us in building stronger educational bridges. With this group, I'm really excited to introduce both Professor Peter Maturi that's here. We've got Dr. Mohammed El-Meski, Dr. James Ham that's here with the North Carolina Central University. We have, we have Professor Odamoro, the director here with academic affairs with Hakima University. Dr. Joyce, we have her powerful leadership in the room. We appreciate your leadership with Collective Rising Leadership Institute. And I don't know, I think I missed who you said who was not going to be able to be here, but I'm going to call out their names anyway into this room if I don't see you on the screen. But Fabian, Anthony, we welcome you, and Professor Jakob Staki from Morgan State University. We are excited about you being here. We're going to all consider how we foster a more sustainable global network that links us together, advancing this collaboration. And then I want to say this last thing. I want you all to engage openly and imagine boldly the future we can build together. So to begin on, how do you see this legacy shaping the broader vision of Pan-African today? We welcome you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kimberly. Just to say, Peter, if you can put your video on, because I can't spotlight you until the video is on. And anybody else, I'm not sure if Jakob or Fabian are here, and I know Karima was unable to join us, but anybody else who is here, because there's so many participants, I can't see across the screens. So just, there we go, Peter. Thank you. I'll spotlight you. And what we'd love to do is just, invite this group into a conversation. It is a conversation, and so we really would encourage that as the person before you has been speaking, if there's something that sparks for you, please do not wait to be told to speak. Just pop your hand up, pass over to each other. Let's just hear from each of your different perspectives what it is that what it is that you feel is moving and possible and becoming possible in Africa and across the diaspora. And this session, really what we hope to do, but we don't have to do, is to use it to explore our shared values, our humanity, community, our commitment to dialogue, connection, collaboration, heritage, the things that connect us. What do we feel becomes possible when we really lean into those? So I am going to stop the share. If we could just take about 20 minutes and invite each of you to share your perspectives. I'm going to invite Joyce, if you want to just kick us off. And then, as I say, please just share amongst yourselves what is sparking for you, what you are noticing. Please introduce yourself very quickly, share a little about your context, and then what do you feel is moving and becoming possible on the continent? And we'll have about 20 minutes for this. No, a little bit longer, 30 minutes for this. So Joyce, would you like to kick us off and just perhaps a quick introduction of yourself, and as we go, please pass to the person you'd next like to hear from, or if you're really inspired by something that's been shared, pop your hand up and introduce yourself afterwards as well. Joyce, over to you.
Okay, thank you. It's a great pleasure to see all of you and to be here. It is our morning. I know it is your afternoon. I am excited just listening and hearing the kind of things that you are muting about why we are here, why we need this now, and why this is so urgent it cannot wait. So I am Joyce Malombe, and I don't know what to say about myself, but my whole life, I think I want to say, although I'm sitting in Washington, D.C., Africa is printed in my heart completely, and it is not written with a pencil that you can write. I am one of them, but I am also in the discourse. And the other thing I wanted to say about myself is I'm an educationist myself. I spent the earlier part of my life at the university, and now I've been trying to resolve the problems that I think are there in the world today. And so education is the key. It is the only right that opens all the rights to the other rights. So if this is not together, if this is not connected, if we are not connected this way, it means we are blocking the very thing that we actually only have. And so as we have been talking to the diaspora and talking to HBCU and everybody else in these EADiS meetings, the thing that connected us in the first place was education. Many of us came to the US and Western world to get education. That is where we discovered our brothers. That is where we discovered our sisters. And so education remains the only vehicle that we can really use today to be able to say, no, you will not separate us. No, you will not undermine us. No, you will not tell us what to do. We are of age and we can talk for ourselves. We have always talked for ourselves and we want to do that now. So for me, this thing is so critical. This meeting is so important right now at this time because we all understand the disconnect that is in the world. We are going through a crisis. This crisis has always been there, but it was hidden. This crisis now is completely out open in the open space and really an onslaught on the African, but whoever it is that has belongs to that group of people, and we are many different colors. And I hope in this meeting we can stand up and say, no, this is not being done. And then I was thinking, somebody talked about internet. I have so many things to say. I must stop quickly. But somebody talks about the internet connections. Now we are connected to each other. Whatever excuses we had of the fact that we are all over the map, we don't have money to fly there or to fly there. No, we don't need money. You know, I can talk to Mushiri when I want. I can talk to Mohammed when I want. How do we harness the powers that were not being given to us, but they are present now? So how do we harness those powers and shake up the system and stand up to be actually not, we don't want to be counted. We don't want to be recognized. We want to set the agenda for the African continent, and we want to set the agenda for the world. And am I crazy talking about the world? Yes. Ubuntu is about connection. Ubuntu is about the other. Ubuntu is about inclusion. Ubuntu is about interdependence. Ubuntu is about nobody is left behind. And because I am here and I sit in this space right now, you have a voice and you have a space. So I'm really hoping that we don't use excuses right now. I am so excited about this meeting, I don't know what to say. So now we have reconnected with our brothers and sisters who are with me here in the United States and all across 24 countries and in Africa. What are we going to continue with? We have the education, and nobody can take that from us. We have the connection. Nobody can remove that connection. But so, do we sit and just watch and lament? Absolutely not. So I want to say 3 things and then I'll stop. Connections at 3 levels. Connection with me. Am I connected inside? And am I connected in a way that I can just see myself through others? So I see me, I celebrate me, and I say, like I have always said, me, I am a gift to Africa. And Africa is a gift to me. So I'm not, I am an individual and I have my own contribution to make. But unless I have come to that awareness of connecting with me within, so that I have energy to rise and connect with the other people. The second connection is whichever sphere you are in now. You don't have to be a global anything, wherever you are. How are you connecting to those who are around you? And finally, we decide the discourse about Africa, on Africa, and how we move forward. We have the right to control and manage and spearhead that. So I am hoping we are not going to be spending time here lamenting about what we don't have, but we are going to celebrate what is within us in such a powerful way. And I am so thankful that education opened a way for me. And as it opened a way for me, I have devoted my life to opening the ways for Africa's children who are not sitting here with us today, but for whom I have dedicated myself to. So are we going to lament? Are we going to wake up? Or are we going to really bridge our differences? We need everybody in this room and outside this room, but we have to provide the leadership at the individual and at the collective level and move this thing. Excuses won't do. And we are the ones we are waiting for. So I just hope this is going to be an upbeat meeting. I have a lot of expectations from you and from me. I want to say I am committed to the cause, but I cannot do what needs to be done in and for Africa right now. Cannot be done by one hero leader. That is why I talk about collective rising. We must collectively rise and lead this process. And we cannot wait. Even if we wait, it will not get done. Nobody else is going to lift this for you, my friend. Not money. We need money, yes, but that is not the thing. With each other and how we connect. So let me stop. I care deeply about what is being done here in the next two days, but it has been happening all along, except that the link was disconnected. And when the wireless thing is a bit disconnected, you can't hear. You are asking, what are you saying? Because you can't hear it. Now that we have this privilege of being together today, let us exploit this moment and let us rise for Africa. We are the leadership that Africa is seeking. Don't look around you. You are the one. So, of course, I am talking like this because I don't mind just being branded as being a little bit crazy about Africa, because I am. And I can see the power, I can see the potential, I can see the strength that we have got. If up to this day, we are still talking, we have a lot coming. Please do not undermine what you can achieve and what we are going to achieve here. I hope the connection happens. I hope a fire will be lit from this moment. Online, yes, because that is now our new ground where we can play without censorship or being stopped. So welcome to this thing, and let us rise together and get what we want to get from this thing, because we are giving it ourselves. It starts with you. It starts with you and your neighbor. It starts with everybody. And we are inclusive. We open the doors, but we are opening the doors saying, we are here not to wait for leadership. We are doing that leadership. So thank you for allowing me to say a few things. I'm sorry I've spoken a little bit longer.
That is okay. Okay, whoever want to pop in on that, you just got us amped up. This is the way we driving it. Let's go.
Pass, Joy, pass, Joyce, because they're not jumping in. We need to keep that momentum. It's hot.
Joyce, who you want to pass it to? You on mute.
Mohammed.
Oh, Mohammed.
Dr. Mohammed, can you please rescue these people from me?
Joyce, I have two ways of interpreting this. Either you have very high expectations about me, assuming that I can just follow right after you, and I'm very humbled by that. Otherwise, you just hate me and you just want to throw me into this. You've just got us fired up, and I'm so humbled. And thank you so much. I don't think anybody could have started this dialogue better than you did, because what you did, Joyce, and I think what's bringing all of us, you started with your heart, and you made us truly see that it's not just about some cogitating to impress others with the high caliber of your intellect, but it's a real thing, and you feel it in every fiber of your body and your heart, and we can sense it. And certainly I think I'm already, and you already got me really focused and say, Joyce, what's next? Just just give us your orders. We're ready to march forward. So I think it's this type of attitude that is critical, because again, it's an attitude that sees the need. And I would add to that attitude and the vision are very, very important. And definitely, I think we do start by stating our intentions, and that we're really, really interested in putting this thing together, not just for the sake of Africa or our brothers and sisters within the continent, but for Africans wherever they are. And this is where we're talking about HBCU, we talk about the African diaspora, wherever they are, whoever cares about this continent and its well-being, does so for the well-being of the continent and for the well-being of the world as well. Because we're not just talking about getting us together, but we're also talking about tapping every single potential and using it to the top, into the maximum, and sustaining it, because by doing that, it's not just the salvation of Africa, but the salvation of the world. We know that in 1 in every 3 young men or women between 15 and 25 by 2050 will be from Africa. And we know that God knows the unlimited number of challenges that we all face, and we all share the fact that we are in the same boat, regardless of where we come from, regardless of our skin color, regardless of our creeds. We have realized the core thing about what it means to live sustainably on this planet, meaning to care for it, because and each one of us has to do his or own thing, because that little thing we do makes a huge difference. So I lived in, my name is Mohammed El Meski. Where I am right now, I'm in Morocco, and my job title, or the hat I've been wearing in the last 3 or 4 years, in addition to the honor of being the chair of the Africa Voices Dialogue Governance Board, I'm also the advisor of the Prime Minister here in Morocco, and I'm in charge of the education portfolio, be it at the early childhood education or K through 12 or higher education or vocational training. So we work with the spirit of lifelong learning, because we have a good number of school dropouts and university dropouts, but at the same time, we want to make sure that dropping out of an institution doesn't mean dropping out of learning. And this is something that we cherish, and we also do want to share and discuss and learn from our brothers and sisters in other African countries, same as the African diaspora. So if you're asking me what is moving in Africa, it's this sense of coming of age, I would say, that's been coming of age since the 60s, because but the sense of now, not just the coming of age, but the sophistication of doing this. When you talk with young men or women, or we talk with people of all ages, it's not just that romantic Pan-Africanism, but they are putting strategy into doing this, and they are doing it one little piece at a time, and they are approaching it as small as possible, but moving forward. Like when you look at the number of organizations and associations right now that are Pan-African in their focus, be it educational, be it research, be it trade, be it security, be it all kinds of conversations. When you look at virtual exchanges right now that are happening between US universities and Moroccan institutions, and I would assume other universities and institutions in the rest of Africa, these are good signs that we are putting technology in good use, but at the same time, we're putting technology in good use for the good intended benefit of prosperity and growth for everyone. So, so that I don't belabor the point too much, vision is very important, and we've established the vision. But really, I think what we should care about is coherent strategy, or the coherence of as many strategies as possible, so that we have that flow that is impactful and that makes a difference in the growth of Africa. And I'll stop here, and I'll just throw the ball to Professor Peter Muchiri.
Well, thank you, Mohammed, and thank you for throwing the ball to me. And thanks a lot, Lobin, and for this wonderful discussion. And indeed, this is a very, very good discussion, because we need to know what is moving, what is possible, and think more importantly is what we can make possible and what we can decide to contribute going forward into what Africa ecosystem essentially should be. My name is Peter Muchiri. I'm the Vice Chancellor and CEO of Dedan Kimathi University of Technology in Kenya. And I'm an educator, I'm a professor, and I'm also an academic leader, and also very important, as a leader of a University of Technology, we are also defining the technological agenda for the country and also for the continent, how we can improve the livelihood of our people, adopting new and frontier technologies to create more and new opportunities for people in our continent that we all love. I think in terms of what is moving, it's very, very important. I think there is more and more willingness for people to collaborate, to work together, to talk to each other. And I think that's very, very important, because I have a belief that if you want to collaborate, there must be areas of mutual interest. That's very important. And from the areas of mutual interest, we can generate areas of mutual benefit. And why is all this important? There is, again, what is moving. Africa, we have a very young population. In my country, Kenya, the average age is 18.2. There are statistics that I checked, and it's the same story you see across the whole continent. So half of the population is essentially 18 and below, very young population. And we need to create opportunities for this young population. They will need jobs of the future. They will need opportunities for growth and development. They will need opportunities for empowerment, and that's very important. So what is moving? We need to see how economies of Africa can be reorganized essentially to empower the people. And for many decades or centuries, it was more of an exploitation economy. Essentially, Africa, I always say it's a paradox. A paradox because it's the richest, poorest continent in the world. And if you connect the two, that's a paradox. Rich because we have all the resources that have developed the world. Poor because we have never leveraged on our resources, basically to improve the life of our people. So if you say what is moving, there is a need really in Africa to develop systems and economies, and especially for manufacturing value addition. Because I believe if you look at the challenge in Africa, I will always define it in two important perspectives. We trade with our raw materials, and the value proposition of the raw materials is so low. If you trade with minerals, you get between 2 and 5% of the value. The person who does a value addition gets the other 95%. If you take the agricultural products, for example, the value proposition of raw materials is essentially between 5 and 10%. Again, 90% is a product of manufacturing value addition. So when we talk about what should move and what is moving in Africa, if you look at how wealth and empowerment is created, it's created through value addition. It's through value addition you get valuable jobs. It's through value addition that essentially wealth is created, industry is grown, and essentially it has been proven beyond reasonable doubt that any country that has moved the livelihood of its people essentially creates value for its people. It's through manufacturing value addition. And what should become possible, and I believe this dialogue would make this important, we need to know which kind of collaboration systems can we create, first of all, for knowledge transfer and knowledge exchange. And we appreciate especially the diaspora. It has a lot of resources in terms of knowledge, a lot of experience, a lot of exposure that they can bring back home in Africa to grow and develop Africa. And it's also a very open invitation to our HBCUs that Africa is your home. And when your home suffers, you also suffer. So we would also create an open door of telling HBCU professors, scholars, and also investors, please come back home and help us grow and develop the opportunities for our people. So I believe essentially we need more ownership of our resources, more valorization of our resources. We need to create industries and have the belief that we can grow industries for the things we consume. I said Africa, we trade with our raw materials, but we also make another big mistake. We import fully finished product and we do not participate in the value addition. I believe in terms of time, it has come time for us to rethink how we can create value. Value here at home, intervene in key value chains, and determine what we should produce here at home and what we must not import if we really have to create the next narrative of the continent and of the African people. But the key resource here is the human resource, the people, their ideas, their knowledge, their experiences, and it's the bringing of all these knowledge-based ideas and also investment opportunities, because if you have ideas without the venture capital, then again, you cannot move forward. So there is a big call, and my call is for the Black Americans. This is to come back home and let's see how we can collaborate in knowledge transfer, knowledge exchange, investment opportunities, and how we can also grow the industry and empowerment of our people. So that's my perspective. And I believe that is what should move the continent and the African to the next level, because time has come for us to take our own place in the development and ownership of our economy, our resources, our ecosystems, so that we can take ownership of creating the next change that we need in the continent. Thank you. Thank you. So I think with that, I would be very happy to give James Ham, maybe to take it from there. Thank you.
I kind of knew that was coming. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Peter and Mohammed and Joyce for bringing that fire to the introduction of this group. I want to share that what's moving, especially speaking as an American, an African American, who attended an HBCU and who currently works at an HBCU, of what's advancing currently right now. The importance of internationalizing our campuses, and that is from a 360-degree perspective. We are increasing the number of international students, especially from the diaspora, especially from Africa. We are entering into partnerships with African institutions and universities. We are creating destinations uniquely for Africa, for our students, to be able to see more of the world, especially the African continent. If you see the background on my video here, it is the statue of our founder, Dr. James C. Shepherd, who created our institution in 1910. But before he created this institution, he was invited to a Sunday school conference in Italy. And en route to Italy, he strategically organized his itinerary to go to Asia and Africa. And when he returned back to our university and created this beautiful campus, that set the foundation for our university to have an international focus. I think it also played into the great work and inspirations of other HBCUs being created. You know, when you start to think about how Africa and HBCUs align, you may recall also historically that the first elected president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, attended an HBCU. He attended Lincoln University. That history has started to now build upon the vision and the importance of bringing the African diaspora to our communities. You know, it's interesting as I listen to you all speak, because I have shared that as an African American attending an HBCU, when I graduated, I wanted to see Africa. And I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I knew it was destined upon me to be able to see that continent in all its beauty, in all its culture, in all its relevance. So I volunteered as a Peace Corps volunteer and went to Senegal and Guinea and lived for 2 years teaching in a very, very rural community in Guinea, in French, in Susu, Malinke, and Fulani. I experienced a culture, a community of Ubuntu that set the foundation for me. And I never knew or imagined this experience could change my life. That experience brought me back home, where my first introductory academic experience, or let's say spiritual one, was when I came back from Guinea. Desmond Tutu was coming to Atlanta to speak at the Ebenezer Baptist Church. This was in 1998. And I happened to be living in Atlanta at the time and just returned back from Guinea. And I said, I have to hear this man. And I went to this church. And for those of you who don't know, this is a famous church where Martin Luther King preached and lived and shared and provided many sermons. And Desmond Tutu was there speaking about Ubuntu. It changed my life and my world. I knew that I had to get back to the African continent. And I did. Opportunities presented itself through the Peace Corps. And I went back to Africa, to Cameroon, Uganda, South Africa, Zambia, and Cote d'Ivoire, and lived in those countries and visited many others over a 20-year career span. For me, I wanted to know what identified my leadership now, because what I thought was servant leadership before I left the United States changed and cultivated because of Ubuntu. When I got to South Africa, I learned more about the Ubuntu theory. And, we talk about that, I am because we are, but I recognize that James Ham became the leader that he became because of the communities, because of the countries, because of the people that helped support my leadership development and growth. It changed me. And so I enrolled in a doctoral program, which I'm working on my dissertation right now. ABD, Albert dissertation. But the topic of my dissertation is Black male perspectives and the role that international experience plays in leadership development. Ubuntu is leadership. Ubuntu is a leadership theory that we do not talk about in Western theory dynamics. It is important for us to make that this is important, especially among our HBCU communities, because Ubuntu leadership and Afrocentricity are parallel. They are synonymous. They are the foundation for which we have here in the United States, because Afrocentricity theory seeks to center the experiences and people of Africa and the African diaspora with their own historical, culture, and sociological context. That is my lived experience. That is the experience of which I am really basing now, based on academic research, and in addition to my lived experiences on the continent. We have begun to move this among our students, among our campus, among our communities. I currently serve as the chairperson of the NAFSA HBCU community within the NAFSA group. If any of you are members of NAFSA's organization. And we are really partnering now to make sure that of the 107 HBCUs that are listed on roster, that we are promoting the destination of Africa in our students and for our students. It is important. Not only is it important partnership, but it is important in being able to amplify the importance and the value that Africa brings to our communities. This year we had a chance to be able to host the local African Union here on our campus. They held a meeting and wanted to talk about partnership and engagement and support for not only our university, but for our African students. It was an awesome symposium and dialogue and exchange and commitment that we have and need to have for each other and with each other as we advance not only the African diaspora, but the African American community in our city. So we are moving. This is all a part of the movement of internationalizing our campuses, of making sure that Africa is at the forefront. Africa is at the pinnacle to be able to promote and advance together the work that we also live, cherish, and expect in our communities. So thank you for allowing me to be able to share a little bit. Thank you for passing the mic to me, Brother Peter. I'll now pass it on to Dr. Andrew Wambua.
Thank you so much, James. Listening to you, Dr. Mohammed, Joyce, and Professor Mushiri, I don't think whether I have any more to add because you have spoken my mind. Because the key theme which is emerging from this conversation is the spirit of Ubuntu, the spirit of Umoja, the spirit of Nia, the collectiveness, and shifting from the mentality of poverty to the mentality of gratitude. And when you talked about Kwame Nkrumah, the founding father of Ghana, what resonated with me is what he said, that I'm not an African because I was born in Africa, but because the Africa is born in me. And that seems how proud he was, and how proud we can be when we come together and join hands to say this is our continent, and it is only us who can build that continent. We have said, all the speakers from this forum have, of course, mentioned that Africa has the youngest population in the world. And we are talking of more than 70%, probably heading to 80%, which is made of the youth. And that one tells you that Africa is the future. But again, the question is, how are we taking care of this future? How are we building this future? I understand that later in the day, we shall be talking about youth empowerment. There is this gospel which has been talked about, that the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. I find that sentiment being the largest scam of all time, because tomorrow never comes. Why can't we empower them today to take the leadership role? Because it's only through mentorship, holding their hands, that we can make them lead as of today, because tomorrow never comes. We all see that the world is crumbling for us for a piece of cake in the continent, and we should be very proud of that and see ourselves as invaluable. Actually, we cannot, a long time ago they told us that we are poor, and as such we bought that idea, that mentality that we are poor. And before that, we never knew that we are poor until they told us so. We never knew that we are primitive until they told us so. And I'm so happy that we are having this conversation of how can we build our continent. Earlier today, I was talking to Professor Domaro, and we were just engaging and having a conversation of the G20, which Robin and I were part of since Tuesday until yesterday. And we are so proud that G20 is happening in the continent. Hallelujah for that. But the question is, how many African countries are involved in that G20 continent, in that G20 summit? It's only one head of state and African Union. The other 53 heads of state are not represented. Then how can we talk about equality, sustainability, and inclusion, which is the theme of the G20? I think we do not have, time has come for us to be vocal and say this is wrong. What is being preached is wrong, because we cannot talk about sustainability, we cannot talk about equality, we cannot talk about inclusion while we are including the hosts of the G20 summit. It is a big shame. And I hope that Africa as a continent, we are going to unite all the 54 countries and speak with one voice. And of course, we are building bridges, and that's why in this forum, we have the audience from North America, Europe, and across the globe. And as they say, a chain is as strong as its weakest link. So if we, all of us, unite, hold each and every other's hand, then we shall achieve the mission and vision of their African Agenda 2063. I was looking at the 7 thematic areas, and I was asking myself, where are we in those 7 thematic areas? One of them is integrated continent. How connected are we as a continent? A while back, I was flying to Morocco in 2020, and I could not get a direct flight from Kenya, from Nairobi to to Morocco. I had to pass through Doha, then from Doha to Casablanca, which is a shame. And again, we are not living up to that vision of an integrated Africa. Another theme is about a prosperous continent. Then how empowered are our citizens? We are talking of learning poverty, as Mohammed has said. We are talking of more than probably half of Africa's population living below poverty line. We are talking about a vicious circle of poverty, which we should not be talking about. We are talking about food insecurity in 21st century, which should never be had. I think time has come for us as a continent to hold ourselves together strong and believe in ourselves that we can equally play a critical role in the continent and across the globe. And just to sum up, and I remember when JF Kennedy was being sworn in, he told Americans, ask not what the government can do to you, but what you can do for your government, for your country. And we as Africans, we should ask ourselves, what can we do for the continent? Not the other way around. What can we do to save our continent? And metaphorically, when you look at the brain of the continent, when you look at the structure of the African continent, it resembles the brain, the human brain. So what does that mean? The intelligence of the world is planted in the African continent. And that's a very strong statement that we can raise up, we can unite and save our continent, because Africa is the future. And I now pass it over to Kimberly.
All right, I'm going to pass it over to Professor Otomoro, just to pick up and bring us in with this dialogue.
Thank you, Kimberly, and of course, Andrew, also for giving me a double pass on. I'm very, very delighted, and I feel the energy, the momentum. First of all, it makes you remember the summit we had here in Nairobi, and a good number of us here, the main discussants, were present. And I feel that the momentum set at that time has been moving further. Of course, you have heard Odumaru Mwangizi based in Nairobi, and what is driving me is this big dream of helping to set up the university that will feature as an innovative university with an innovative curriculum, empowering skills of the 21st century, the fourth industrial revolution, and focusing on very exotic disciplines like data science, AI, mechatronics engineering. And at this point, I wish to give special credit to Professor Peter Mushiri. You might not know, but when we were doing benchmarking, we actually spent a whole day at the Dedan Kimathi University of Technology. And the statues of Mandela that we saw when we visited were clear great inspiration, Dedan Kimathi. That we saw the liberation of Africa with these men who led, and the women, of course, because within this movement, within Kenya, it was inclusive. And so we are here to celebrate this long journey. And I felt the passion, Joyce speaking with a lot of energy, which I also shared. I think this is the time of Africa. And I recall in part of my studies research coming across a World Bank report, which stated that, can Africa claim the 21st century? I don't remember the year when that report was done, but stuck in my mind. Can Africa claim the 21st century? And my answer is an unapologetic yes, but there are conditions for that to happen. First, that we must claim our Ubuntu, we must claim our legacy, we must retrieve our indigenous knowledge systems, which have been despised and rejected, and some of the historical figures who said Africa is not part of world history. There is a famous Hegel, a German philosopher, but I think some of them are misguided. They didn't know what to do with this dark continent. And people still metaphorically say the continent is still dark because literally we do not have what it takes to embrace technology. Some parts of Africa are still in the dark. And quite coincidentally, yesterday, we had the conclusion of the week of EdTech. at the I-Hub in Nairobi, at the heart of Nairobi, that does a lot of innovation across Africa, in Namibia, Kenya, Nigeria, several countries. And the main focus, there were innovations made by young entrepreneurs in Kenya, creating applications to take education to very disadvantaged parts of the country, teaching people offline with the kids with the iPads and teaching them how to learn online, and for teachers to develop a curriculum. If you ask me what am I feeling in the continent, this is a revolution. And clear, I have no doubt in my mind that Africa can claim the 21st century, but the conditions must be the spirit of Ubuntu. I also recall in some of their sharings, people mentioning Kwame Nkrumah. I must confess, when I was young, growing up, well, that's way back, the very first book I came across was the Booker T. Washington autobiography. And the inspiration, of course, I can't go into the details of the different ideological formations of the time, but the focus on education was critical. And Kwame Nkrumah, also in his autobiography that he studied at Lincoln University, when he was applying, that he quoted the line, "So much to do, so little done." And that stuck to my mind, that probably the struggle to liberate the continent has been going on from the beginning of time. And Wambua Andrew was saying that, of course, Africa reflects the brain. Of course, people have admitted that humanity started in the continent. Ethiopia boasts that this is the home of Africa, of humanity. So we should claim this history, celebrate it, and link it to this whole agenda of the diaspora. And that's why we are invoking the ancestors behind us, ahead of us, the Nkrumahs of this world. But also, I am hearing another development, another powerful energy in addition to Ubuntu. Let us not forget Ujamaa. This is the Swahili version of Ubuntu, by the way, propagated by Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, a thinker and a philosopher in his own right. And then we also hear within the post-colonial discourse, people mentioning Afropolitanism. And this is a concept that is combining all the best in Africa today and linking it to the diaspora, and that there are lots of Africans who are moving across the globe, sharing the sentiments we have, putting it in writing. And it means what I'm hearing and what I'm sensing is this energy being revitalized. So my expectations are quite modest, but that we have gathered here, that is already a huge success. And those of us who met in Nairobi came when we went to Dequat and we started walking in the greenery, experiencing the community. We even tasted coffee. We had the coffee tasting ceremony, and we can still even feel the flavor of that coffee. This is the moment for us to savor the goodness that is in Africa, the chocolate that we make, we produce and sell, and then buy it at exorbitant prices. This is the time for us to rise. And finally, the coincidence of the G20, that the solidarity, which is part of the theme, and equality, as was mentioned, plus sustainability, it is almost that they are reading our mind. However, we need to go beyond the platitudes, we need to go beyond the slogans and make this reality. And with these few remarks, I say I am at home in this space, and it's going to be an amazing dialogue. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. Everyone, you all brought this kickoff together, this conversation. When we think about reclaiming this history, just with this dialogue, we are actively honoring and preserving and recentering the contributions of our ancestors, the struggles, but also the triumphs that we are a testament to, the transatlantic slave history, the African people, the diaspora. We are here. We were programmed to believe that we've been marginalized or erased, but we are literally restoring the agency. We're acknowledging that this is our shared history, this is our story, and it's not one of being deficit. but it's being, resilient and creative with global influence. Ubuntu, this is the foundation to how we foster sustainable global network and how we grow and how we bridge linkages, how we build worldwide. This is how we do this. We're advancing collaboration. This is what we're doing right now in education, innovation, exchanges. This is how we can boost. We talked about manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, value adding. This is how we drive economic opportunity right here. So thank you again just for your contributions to this discussion. I am going to pass this over to you, Robin, to head us off into our breakout rooms, and let's hear from what's flowing and what's next.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. What an amazing discussion. And yeah, that was just amazing. Incredible to be able to gather voices from across the continent where there is such coherence and passion and commitment to a future that is African and a future that is beautiful and a future that is human and is steeped in connection, care, belonging, Ubuntu. So if you guys can just see if you can remove your own spotlights, because that's going to be challenging for me. But I think that we'll also be stepping our way now into just some reflections back into the room first. So what is it from this room, as you've been listening, as you've been hearing these amazing commitments, connections, passion from our dialogic discussants? What has this evoked for you? What resonates for you? What would you like to add? We're going to take 5 or 10 minutes just to listen to what's coming through from you in the room as you've been listening, and then we're going to go into some breakaway room spaces so that every person has an opportunity to just land. What does this mean for you? What is moving in Africa and the diaspora? So please, if you can just pop hands up, if anybody would love to share. Mbabato, back to you again. Pop your hands up and we'll pass around the room.
Thank you so much for your insightful sharing and experiences. In my experience, I have observed how much we often neglect the issue of healing. I think we all know that at a mental level, the internalized oppression has affected Africans a lot. But then there's the ancestral component of it, which in my research that focuses on ancestral trauma and epigenetics speaks to the metaphysical trauma that we have inherited through these centuries of colonization. And I think up until the spaces we create and the education we envision addresses the inherited trauma, the metaphysical component of how that trauma presents itself energetically and psychologically in our lives and in how we see each other, our efforts to move Africa forward will be hindered. And so my suggestion would be, how do we begin to look at our interventions more holistically to also address the historical trauma that we have inherited, that science now proves that we inherit 5 to 7 generations of memory through our genes. And so at a psychic level as well, we have been affected tremendously. And that is my sharing. Thank you so much for the insights.
But and I really just want to resonate with you as well on that and say, so when we talk about generative dialogue, This is one of the incredibly powerful aspects of generative dialogue. Really, it is a form of, well, it is trauma-informed dialogue. It leans into when we create spaces in which we are witnessed. That is how trauma is able to not heal. It's able to recompost into something that is fertile and offers us the resources that we need to grow into a different and new future. And it's not just our own. It's the stories of our being and how we came to be and where we come from and who our parents were and who our ancestors were. And so thank you so much for just bringing that in, because the experience of being in places where we are seen, heard, and loved is not about feeling good. It's what's required to heal our humanity. This is the work of our age. This is the only way we can actually enter into a future that's beautiful. Any other thoughts and comments as we listen in to what's landed in the room, and what have you felt? What have you noticed? What have you seen? Mohammed.
Thank you so much. One thought or comment that came up, and I also would like to join you in thanking Mambatho for mentioning this piece about healing. And I love the way you also spin the conversation into composting what trauma is, because it's very much in resonance with the cycle of life, where we keep moving and moving forward, and everything is, whether the reason makes sense or doesn't make sense, is just part of the process. We learn from it, we move forward. One piece, or actually two other pieces that I'd want to bring into the conversation is the leadership piece. But at the same time, what's coming up right now into the conversation about mobility is what's called this brain circulation instead of brain drain. And this brain circulation idea, for me, is full of promise, because it one thing I would like to be super careful about is that the fact that we celebrate our identity and that we try to further understand our identity and where we're coming from, and the fact that we're humble about not understanding enough and still trying to seek enough understanding of that and trying to reach out to each other, also has to come with the caution of not thinking that we're the center of the world, because that could be our own undoing. It's really very important. At the end of the day, I think much of what we criticize others for is a sense of supremacy that negated our legitimacy and our credibility in our stories. For us to really be in full coherence with the fact that we want to bridge our humanity is exactly this, that we are in a serious quest to know our collective self, up, and to know ourselves at the individual level, but it's us and others. It's very important, us and others too. And maybe that's how we pay true tribute to our rich history of Ubuntu, by, yes, acknowledging the fact that what happened in time and again many times was horrible, But again, I believe one of the stories that we hear from South Africa, Morocco, and many other places is those committees or commissions of truth and reconciliation, where say the truth, talk about the truth, talk about the hard truth, but let not this truth bar you from developing a better future, where it's not about being vindictive, it's not about seeking vengeance, it's about building together. So I just wanted to underscore this because it's really very important for the sustainability of our effort.
Thank you, Mohammed. Wow. Haruna.
Thank you so much. I think that I will pick it from the last word of Mohammed about building together. You know, what is happening in Africa, I can talk about Niger that I know best. You know, you can see a lot of students that are graduated that study in America or France or Europe in general. So due to some kind of frustration that they face when they came back from their trainings, I witnessed last year one of my brother coming back from Morocco. He studied in Morocco and make his specialization in France. And when he came back, instead for the government to appoint him on the place where he can use his potentials, they just transfer him in a village that there is not even any materials for him to work as a doctor. And he was like frustrated. And he decided to go back to Morocco and work in Morocco. And you see, this kind of peoples, we can say that, okay, this is diaspora from Niger because they are outside, but they are frustrated with the country, with the governments. So they cannot work to build this country because they would say whatever they do, the government don't care. And what is happening here is that the government, they don't care the specialization that we have. If you are not a son of minister, of president, then whatever you learn, you cannot be in a good place to serve the country and to serve the humanities. So you see, those people, they are in the diaspora, but they are like disconnect with the country. And I don't know how and why we can, how we can work as one, even from the diaspora to people from the diaspora to be connected over there. Maybe those that are, fully engaged with their country, they can maybe talk with those that are very reluctant to invest in their country or to share their experience, help in the training in their country to come back and work in their country. We need to have this connection even from the diaspora, not only like civil society organization or what you are doing here, but I need to see how we can connect diaspora people to make them very strong, to be unified and to work, hand in hand from different countries and see how they can be engaged and working with their country. So it is very important in seeing how we can build together. Because development, now we are in a system where technology is growing. So those people that went outside and trained with technological materials, once they came back in the country, there's no progress in the country. So what they learn, they cannot use their own experience because there's no equipment in the country that can help them work and serve their skills normally. So I think even in the development, it will be also good to see how government can adapt their universities or their administration with technology that what people learn from outside, they can come, and there is no gap of use of technology in the country, but it is a break into the development of a country. Over to you.
Thank you, Haruna. So Aziz and then Esther, and then we'll go into breakaway rooms. So yeah, just if you'd like to share your thoughts quickly, Aziz, and hand over to Esther.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just have a few thoughts I want to share with everyone based on what I've heard. And as I've been reflecting, first of all, I would like to thank all the speakers from the discussants from the panel for the energy and excitement that they have brought to the room, and the ideas as well. I think the first thing I have in mind now is that we as Africans or as diaspora, we do have a story. We have a philosophy of Ubuntu. It's a story actually, but the question I might raise is, we here at this room as educators, we share this story and we know it and we believe in it. To what extent have we been able to share this story with our kids, with our children since a very, very early age? So that's a question I want to ask, because what we're doing now is our kids, including my daughter, for example, they go to school. Most of the programs are based on Western education, and we wait until they graduate and they achieve success, and probably then they might meet someone who would talk to them about this story. I think that's very, very important. So providing hope to the kids of Africa might start with sharing this story of Africa as a continent of interconnectedness. And this is where the I think the answer to Muhammad's worries, which are legitimate, very legitimate as worries, whether we're going to slip into the same behavior of other people who have been criticized. And I think as long as we stick to Ubuntu, we won't, because that's what Ubuntu is about. So Ubuntu is about being interconnected and living together as humans, whether you are African or you're not African, because Ubuntu is not for Africans. Ubuntu is an African philosophy that the world today needs. This polarized world needs this philosophy. And we have seen that there are many schools of business management and other schools around the world that are not African that are teaching Ubuntu leadership, because they see it as, as hope for the world that is torn today. And the second thing is about change. Change, my friends, needs time. I think we shouldn't rush it. I think for now, language is very, very important. So using language, this language that we have used in this space now, spreading it, sharing it with everyone is very, very important. But change won't happen overnight. It takes time. Change comes with the frustrations, with the denial, with the disappointment, with everything we have, yes? But it takes some time. So we need to be patient and we need to believe in ourselves. Of course, we may not have all the means now, but having this story and this philosophy and this belief in our potential is huge and important, but we need to share it with everyone so that everyone has the same hope and the same belief and the same ambition. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Esther, and then just briefly, Nina, and then let's just make sure that all voices have a chance. So, Esther.
Thank you very much. It's been amazing and an opportunity to be here. I would love to add to what was just said that especially the Africans living in the diaspora and those who migrated through the slavery, I would love for us to also change the narrative of seeing it as a disadvantage to being an advantage, in the sense that maybe for such a time like this, You were taken there to know the very foundations of how the Westerns built, in fact, used our people to build their economy. You have the blueprint, you have seen it at first hand. How are you transferring this knowledge back home? How are you using it so that African is built? That is what the Chinese have done. They were taken as cheap labor. The Americans use them as cheap labor. They learned the skills. They learned what it means to build an industrious country. And when the time was up, they said, okay, we are old enough, we can take care of ourselves, we need you out of our land. And we can see the magic they are doing. They are doing amazing. The same knowledge that were passed on to them the hard way because they were used, sort of, for lack of better word, they are now using it to build their world, and it's working for them. So you have seen firsthand how our Black people were used to build this Western world. What can you pass on down to Africa, putting our Ubuntu, to practice, bringing ourselves together to make sure that the experiences you've had can be transferred to Africa to make it better? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Esther. Nina.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm feeling right at home here because I've never been in a room with people with the mindset of Pan-Africanism. So I'm very grateful to be here. I just wanted to add just a little bit when it comes to the HBCU aspect of stuff that was raised and in Nkrumah in bridging the gap. Because I understand that I believe that education is key, like how the First Lady said, where Africans, we know nothing about our history. We know nothing about what's happening in the continent. I'm from the Gold Coast of Ghana, which is a Gold Coast of Africa, which is Ghana. And I've never seen gold before, like in its raw form. I mean, so that's how bad our education system is. We are not taught about things that are around us. I had to learn A for apple, B for bear, when I'd never seen an apple or a bear in my life, to the extent that I thought bears were cuddly animals and weren't dangerous. So just to put a little depth into how far behind we are when it comes to the education, it's not just STEM, but just knowing about the things around us. But when it comes to the Nkrumah, someone mentioned Kwame Nkrumah here. I just wanted to bring a little perspective too on that. I believe Kwame Nkrumah became who he was because, one, he experienced being a Black man in America, and two, he attended an HBCU, and three, he hung around a lot of freedom fighters and African Americans and Africans in the diaspora in America. The reason why I believe that is because we were colonized by the British, a lot of the elites were sent to the Oxfords and to Europe to study. It's only Nkrumah that I know of who was influenced by Agri, who came to America. So I feel like he became, the Pan-Africanism kicked in, the fight for his people, for the continent. Being in America alone made him visualize a United States of Africa. And he said, Africa must unite now or perish. And unfortunately, we are in the perishing stage if we don't wake up right now. We are in the perishing stage with everything that is happening on the continent. 3 weeks ago, New York Times had a heading with Kwame Nkrumah on it, the man who saw Africa's future. So as Black people, as Africans, we have to take this very seriously. But it's very, very important to bridge the gap with the HBCU, because when Nkrumah died, and his writer was this British lady who knew where his scripts was. So she went to Guinea to go get these scripts, and she didn't know where to hide it because his enemies were in Ghana, his enemies were in Africa, his enemies were in Europe, his enemies were everywhere, the CIA, everywhere. The only place she could think of hiding Kwame Nkrumah's scripts, which we have today that we are very grateful for, that was Howard University, an HBCU. So I just wanted to add this to what the guy had said when it came to the HBCU, and also add a little bit to the why we need the education. So, but I'm Nina. I'm in fashion activism. So hopefully, when I speak later, we can go more in depth into that. Thank you.
Guys, we're going to have a little bit of a moment. I'm just going to share again. We're going to have some time to just really be able to drop into bringing our voices and our thoughts into this conversation in an intimate way. And we're going to go into some breakaway rooms. The purpose of going into these rooms and the purpose of having this approach is that we often sit in spaces and we hear this amazing, inspiring, information, and it moves us, and there's something that moves. But the thing is that until we articulate and name what has moved us, it's not entirely real and it doesn't completely land in us. And so we're going to go into breakaway rooms of between 4 and 5 people each. We'll be in these spaces for 15 minutes. And the objective is to please open yourselves to listening to each other. Give everybody in the room an opportunity to really land. What have they heard? What have they noticed? What is striking them? What is resonating for them? What does it mean for them? And so because we don't have, a huge amount of time, the ask is just do a quick introduction of yourself and then let somebody start. Speak for 2-3 minutes and just really speak into what have you heard, sensed, felt. What is landing for you? What does it make you? What does it activate for you? And then pass on to the next person. So this is less at the moment because of time, so much a conversation as just a witnessing of what's growing for you, what is in you, and what are you feeling from what's been shared today. And so literally those questions, introduce yourself. What are you seeing? What are you feeling? What does this mean for you? I'll open up the breakaway rooms. We'll have 15 minutes. It's not timed, so there isn't a timer on the room. So please pay attention in the rooms to your own time and give yourselves, 3 minutes each. Please watch your time yourself so that you are fair to others. And please offer the space to each other also. So invite each other in. What do you think? And let's have this experience together. We'll then come back and have a short break. And my breakaway rooms closed down by themselves. We'll have a short break and then we will go into another 2 dialogues just to deepen this conversation further. All right, so the rooms are opening. I will stay here and help anybody who's battling to get into a room. You should see that the room pops up. Just drop yourself into your room and then I'll be in the main room to help anybody who needs that help. But welcome back to the shared space together. How was that? How are you, Cindy? Good to see you.
Hello, good to see you too.
Amazing. Okay, here we go. We've got some people entering. Aziz, I'm going to make you co-host as well, just so that you can help with, I think we may have some new people that start entering now as well. Here we go. Cool. Okay, great. Okay, so welcome back. Hi, Silvana. Silvana, you look so wonderful, like the wind is blowing in your hair there. It looks so relaxing wherever you are sitting on your hopefully Moroccan veranda. Looks great.
That's exactly what I'm doing. I have a balcony that faces the ocean.
Ah, divine. Wonderful. Okay, let's see. some more coming in. Wonderful. So how was that? How was your conversation?
Like always, you don't want to end it, right? But it was but the shaping of the feedback in our call is it's really a collective approach to what we've recognized, what's happened. And it so happened to be the room that we were in, we all knew each other. It was just like, okay, being in that room allowed us to just understand the positioning of where we are now with the programs that we've been moving with AVD. And the charge that we're taking with how things are being deposited within our rooms and in the way that we congregate. And it's not even the congregation, it's the bridging of, we're really taking the charge on not only what it means to be human, but really what it means to connect and truly live. Simply just like principles that allows us to dwell in spaces from all over the world to really connect, and we're coming from different backgrounds, and we are exchanging the knowledge that is important for us to realize how much power we have within to really shift the paradigm. The power of education. I was thinking once it was shared that Nina spoke about just being in Ghana and not even seeing gold or understanding the power of what's actually there. I said, I experienced the same thing being in the United States, and that because the way the system designed, it kept this knowledge and this information hidden from us to oppress us, or just keep us, from acting in our power, what we know. And so, or how we can lead and just make things come together. So now that we know what we're doing, we are the standard to this work. And so the evolution, I'll just yield to anybody else that want to say anything, but that's what our room was really. It's just what's resonating with us is that our assignment is real, and it is something that it's not the westernized practices anymore. It's not that. And the power of what Africa is doing is literally creating this, we're fostering a direction that keeps us, centered with what it really means to build globally. You understand? And so that's, I'm going to land with that.
I love it, Kimberly. I love when you get excited like that. It's just amazing. It's just wonderful. So please, let's just I think we all probably need a little body break before we head into our other two dialogues, but I do want to just invite, like, what have you heard, felt, sensed in your rooms? What is the thinking that's starting to emerge for you? Please pop into the chat, but let's land voices into the room again. Let's take 7 or 8 minutes to do that, and then just give everybody a chance to have a quick body break, because we're then going to go into 2 amazing dialogues around youth voice and the opportunities around learning and working, and just try and deepen our, okay, what's possible? What can we do? What are we noticing? Anybody who wants to just reflect and share, what is present for you? And feel free to pop hands up and put in the chat. Ife.
Greetings, everyone. It's an honor and pleasure to be here. So in our chat, we were able to talk about just the past as well as the future, the past, the present, and the future. And so in the past, I'm looking at the injustices that have taken place and the impact that they still have today, the concept around, moving forward from those issues, and also concerns around AI and its role in education, and just in developing thinking people. And so I just wanted to share, because I didn't get to share this part around AI. And you know, as you may be able to see from my profile picture, I'm focused on community-based education, which is around bringing the classroom and the curriculum together. And we are focusing on developing schools in Africa with a focus on community-based education, of course, third millennium skills, but also indigenous knowledge and AI and sustainability and entrepreneurship. And so I wanted to say you know, I know that there is a lot of concern around AI. And for me as an educator, it's important for us to build systems that incorporate critical thinking into the use of AI and to help students to view AI as a tool, as a means to an end, but not the end. And so, you know, for those who, my brother Haruna was in there, you know, I just wanted to share that. I didn't get to share that. And so it's about us being visionaries about how we would like to see youth of the continent utilize AI in order to, for me, I say to build the future. And so I'll just leave it there for space for others. Thank you.
Wonderful. Christina.
Thank you. We had a phenomenal conversation, which I think is going to lead to our next conversation. And that was mostly around how wonderful this dialogue has opened up so many opportunities to really understand the African diaspora, not just across generations, culture, professions, and learned experiences, but how do we take the information that we've heard today and leverage that information in our own personal lives? How do we move the dial? And then more importantly, one of the other things that we really were just about to get into, and that is bridging the cross-cultural and intergenerational divides. The young lady that came on right before spoke about her experience as a youth in the education system that she's in today. And so, you know, these dialogues matter because the African diaspora is beautifully diverse, but there's the African Americans, and then even within that, there are differences there. One of the women in our group talked about how removing Africa from African American and going back to Black American. Why? What does that mean? What's really happening with the undertone of that? And then there's the Afro-Caribbean. Well, that's me. I'm Afro-Caribbean, but born in America. And so that cultural bridge and intergenerational divide is completely different from my parents. But then you have the Afro-Latino, the Afro-European, and then of course, the continental African communities. And we all carry our own unique history. And so it's how do we add those differences that we often hear? I would use the word near. You know, we have near differences, but they're not the same, right? And then how do we bridge that in spaces like this starts? But it also, you know, for me, I was really blessed to have the opportunity to have those stories, right? For me, it was the storytelling. That was a huge opportunity. It talked about the cultural differences on the island versus here, age, all of that. The mixed age group approach, the way that we, you know, had our personal experiences with work and how we save money and how we identify and how we marry and what's important. And so we were just about to get into that, but truly spaces like this is where we have the opportunity to think deeper. And then, take one of the things that we said was just take the one thing. What's the one thing that we could do to move the dial, as we engage in these generative dialogues in a space like this, and then take it and live it. And so, that was our experience. And so I'm thrilled, and I can't wait until the next session. I'll pass it back to you, Robin.
That's fine. You can also just pass on to the next person whose hands up that you see.
Oh, I can't.
It's okay. I'll
hard
pass it on to
see.
James. But James, when you're done, just pass on to the next person. No need for a piggy in the middle.
Okay, great. Thank you. Our conversation started to take on a very deep and reflective tone, especially regarding leadership and opportunity. We say quite often that Africa is our youth are our greatest resource, and where resource and opportunity meet is not reaching reality in some of the communities in our countries and opportunities for our youth. The comment came up that we have Africa has some of the longest standing rulers in countries, and those positions, those people in power have not afforded opportunity for the youth to really be involved. And as much as we talk about them being the greatest resource, how do we really say, or how do we really prepare or really give opportunity for our youth to be able to lead? The dialogue it goes across countries. It goes across communities, of being able to, not only provide the education for our youth, but also to be able to give them the position, the opportunity to be able to participate in the future of their countries. And so, I could identify that with that, having lived in Cameroon, having lived in Uganda. Those are two countries that, I've had a chance to meet a few of those presidents, and it is disheartening. And I had to position myself in the place of, the youth in those countries, who are anxious, who are equipped, who are ready to be able to participate in the advancements of their countries. And so it was an interesting dialogue. We weren't able to finish. Time passed us, but it's necessary to be able to have that, because I think it also plays into the healing dialogue, the opportunity dialogue, the brain drain dialogue. How can we be able to prepare our youth, and equip them and engage them for the opportunity to participate in their future, in the future of their children and their children's children. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, James. Such a powerful insight. Yeah, how can we prepare a future for our children? That's very powerful. Michael?
Oh, thanks, Andrew. So I'm going to do something different. So we were cut a little bit short. Right before we were cut short, Brittany was sharing what I would consider a very powerful thought. So Brittany, would you mind finishing the thought with everybody else here?
I will, I can attempt. So I think the context of the conversation was talking about the future of education. And we were really referencing what Nina offered in terms of the elite of the continent going to study like in Oxford with European values-based systems where they were prioritized versus Nkrumah, who went to an HBCU where the contextualization of education and who was prioritized and those classes or in those studies looked a lot different and looked like the people that look like him. And so when we talk about reimagining or the future of education, particularly as we center our youth, we were talking about how there has to be a pivot, right? Like there has to be a removal of that European system being the center of our education systems here in America, on the continent. Like there has to be a removal from that in order to get us to where we are dreaming, where we are, imagining, and to actualize that. And so thinking about the innate genius, right, that is already within us, within our youth, we need to draw on that to think about new ways of education, new ways of creating curriculums, of even going about learning, right? Because even the traditional education system doesn't necessarily speak to how we learn, how we retain information, and how we implement that and practice that. And so there has to be that conversation of what that looks like. And then lastly, particularly here, there has been the use of the term liberation. And I think that everyone has different understandings and definitions of what liberation is. And so we have to be in conversation with one another to get to this shared understanding of liberation so that we can actively work towards that. Because there is, power when we are working collectively. And so in order to meet that, we need to continue to be in these beautiful dialogues like we're holding space for today. So I think that captured it, Michael.
Oh, amazing. So we are not done, but I'm sure everybody needs a loo break or a coffee break or a body break or some kind of break. So if we can take, let's take 15 minutes and just relax, go do the thing you need to do. We will be here when you come back. And our conversations that we're going to step into on returning are, so James, the conversations are not yet done, and I am so sorry, and I feel better because I actually didn't rip you out the time I ripped you out today. But when we come back, we're going to go into two deeper conversations around youth voice and youth perspective. And the other conversation is going to be on the opportunities that are emerging around learning and working, and what transformative opportunities are we starting to feel coming through and what could come through. And so everything that's been shared here, we would love to land into those dialogues as well.